Hello everybody, welcome back to today's session on self-attention. It is also named as intra-attention in some places, particularly in the pre-transformer era. In our previous video, we have learned various forms of attention: additive attention, multiplicative attention, local attention, global attention, and so on and so forth. Now we are going to learn about self-attention. Actually, the purpose of this will be what necessitated the invention of self-attention. Now let's come back to the PPT. Well, you remember in our last presentation, what was the necessity for attention? Attention was invented to solve this problem, that you have a unequal length of sequence to sequence network where the encoder is giving output which is not equal to the decoder's input. In order to overcome that, we had compressed the entire information of encoder into a context, fixed length context or a vector. Then we found that that is causing a lot of information loss, so therefore we took help of the attention mechanism. But because of this nature of encoder and decoder, we had an advantage of using the decoder output. Decoder hidden state was used to attend all the output of the encoder. If you remember here that this was our alpha which was applied on all the hidden state, and the alpha was calculated as a function of the hidden state of encoder and the decoder. Then the context was created, then we got the output from the decoder, right? This is what we can call it as a inter-attention, because the attention is in play within encoder and the decoder. So this is what is the inter-attention we can think of. But when it is not a sequence to sequence network, but for other tasks, when decoder is not in place, then how do you do that? Is there a attention requirement still there existing? So in order to understand, let's see what are the other tasks we are thinking about. The other tasks are basically intrinsic tasks of the language modeling. For example, identifying the similar words or the basic language capabilities which can be grouped like word sense disambiguation, which is a word, one word which has got different meaning. For example, bat as cricket bat or bat as animal. Or parts of speech tagging which we discussed in our encoder decoder video. Subject verb agreement where singular subject should have verb accordingly singular verb, like cat runs, and when it is cats then it is run. So like that the subject verb should have a agreement. Named entity recognition again we covered during our encoder decoder video, which is nothing but extracting names, person's name, dates, places, etc. So these are very important aspects of understanding the language. If the understanding of the language is proper, then the accuracy of the downstream task, for example sentiment analysis, question answering, or language inference, becomes that much accurate and clear. So let's understand, when you are particularly going to natural language inference, what are the complexities which is involved. In natural language inference, you are given a premise like the boy is running through a grassy area, and then you have been asked to, the model is asked to predict whether the boy is in his room. Is this a correct hypothesis? If it is not, then it is marked as contradiction. A boy is running outside. Okay, that's what this sentence is saying. The premise is like that. So it is entailment. And sometimes it could be neutral. For example, the boy is in park. Is it saying it is park? Maybe, because he is in grassy area, it could be. So it says neutral. So you can understand the complexity, and those kind of inference is possible only when you have a very deeper understanding of the source sentence itself. It's not a translation happening, but understanding the source sentence together. That's what is the NLI example. Now how it could be possibly happening? You need to understand the sequence and the relationship between the word that is giving birth of the self-attention. And how it is done, just have a visualization here. As word for the time step 1 is appearing, first word from the sequence, and we know the output hidden state. That hidden state is used to attend the previous word. Earlier we had the decoder hidden state attending this, Now the current word is attending the previous word, like this. So you have the H1 and H0, which will be weighted by alpha. Alpha will be calculated as a function of current word and the previous word. So if you go further in the time steps 2, you can see now it is attending both the words, the previous words. As a result, it is now alpha 2 is a function of current word and all the previous word. And likewise it will go on till the t time step, where it is attending the current word ht. There is a typo here, it should be ht. ht is attending all the previous words. Here it is. So the alpha is a function of current word ht and all the previous words. You got some idea about the self-attention, but how exactly it is implemented? Very close to this concept, but there are little challenges which we will be discussing in the paper. Once you implement a self-attention concept, and let's say this is the entire sequence of words, which is the FBI is chasing a criminal on the run. When the next word, when the first word appears, this is red color. Next word appears, it is FBI. So it is then attending the. Likewise, if you move on somewhere here, let's say run, you can see when run is the word, it is appearing or it is attending criminal chasing FBI. Or for example, if A is there, then chasing is very highly attended, whereas FBI is, you can see there is a light violet color, so it is also attended. So this is how the attention moves as the new word appears. Let's now discuss about how it was implemented. So this paper is about LSTM network for machine reading, or rather long short-term memory, which we have already learned in our attention visualization video along with LSTM. That is where we have also described what LSTM is. So LSTM, long short-term memory, we learned what they are additionally changing in the LSTM cell is that they are treating it as a network rather than treating it as a cell. Why it is so, we'll just tell you. So in this paper they argue that normally the LSTM cell or a RNN cell cannot learn those intrinsic nature of the language, because there is a Markovian assumption in place, which means the current state alone summarizes well the tokens it has seen so far. We'll come to that in a moment. The second problem they said is, this is the consequence of the Markovian assumption, that this assumption fails when the memory size is not large enough. I mean, the summary information which is coming from the previous state is not large enough, or the sequence is very long. Very similar to what we discussed about the context problem between encoder and decoder, right? Fixed length context problem. So similar problem also happens when the sequences are moving from one step by step and getting summarized as a hidden state, right? Now this is interesting, which is LSTM aggregates information on a token by token basis in a sequential order, but there is no explicit mechanism for reasoning over structure and lexical information. What does it even mean? So let's understand these two. One is this Markovian assumption, and second is the structure and lexical information. We'll go there quickly. So this is what the first time step is appearing, going to the LSTM cell, and then the second one is coming. You can see now in the second one, the H2 information is now this H2. As the second step has come, H2 is a summary information or a compressed information of X2 and X1. And as we move ahead, X3 or H3 is not exactly the value of X3, X2, X1, but is compressed and summary information of X3, X2, X1 in the form of H3. So as we move there, every step we are moving, we are actually losing some information because of this compression which is going on. At the final stage, HT, you can think of it is actually summary information for a long sequence. So either this memory has to be very large or the sequence has to be short. And what is structure of the input mean? So the structure of the input can be understood by this example. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. You can see that there is a sequence which is easy to understand. That I guess that normally RNN or LSTM will also learn the order of the sequence. Not a very difficult thing to learn, but the syntactic structure is what is difficult to learn for a standard LSTM, which is here there is a subject, there is a verb, and there is an object. This is a syntactic structure. Further, there is also a semantic relationship, which is the similarities. For example, in a lexical relationship, there could be several relationships within a sentence. For example, the synonymy, which is similar word, big and large, antinomy, which is up and down, then hyponymy and hypernomy, which is the meaning is included within that or another word. For example, the rose is a hyponym of flower, and the flower is a hypernym of rose. Okay, and then meronymy, which is again part. It denotes a part of another word. For example, wheel is a part of car. Then homonymy, polysemy, and co-location, where the words are used together. For example, make a decision, take a risk. So make and take along with decision and risk are frequently used. So such kind of relationship and understanding is important, and that you cannot do with its conventional LSTM, given the birth of self-attention, understanding the relations within the sequence itself. Well, now let's understand how this paper has implemented this. So basically, as the words are appearing, you keep on appending the hidden state into a hidden tape. Sequences are coming, the hidden state is stored in a hidden tape, right? Hidden tape means it's like a strip and with slots where the value of each one will be stored one by one. Okay, so now next one is the C1. Like the same way, hidden tape is storing the H1 values. In a similar manner, there is a memory tape this paper proposed, which will store the C1 state. As the new time step appears, the second time step appears, it is going to extend. It is going to concatenate the values, the H1 and the H2 and the C2. So that is how within the cell itself, it is not relying solely on the summary information, but it is also storing the previous values, all the values as a tape. This continues till the T time step, the last time step, giving you a hidden tape and the memory tape. Now they are converted to a attention score through this formula. You can see they are combining x1, which is passing through a wait. Then they are also taking the current hidden state, which is this one, the actual word, which is xt at t time step, and the hidden time steps, all the tape values of the previous step values, ht minus 1, they are also used to create the attention score. Attention score is then converted to weight. Now this weight used on the H2 and C2, which means that when you are getting H3, for example, H3 is not a summary information of H2, H1, etc., but instead it is utilizing all the values as a weighted average. So you are not throwing away the information, you are weighting them and then sum them up, and therefore this will be more richer than the summary information which H3 alone could have provided. Rest of the stuff is just like our LSTM formulas, which is once the CT and HT are attention weighted state, those states are now used just like the LSTM cell will do, which is the forget gate and the input gate controlling the amount of cell state which will flow through. It is the same formula. You can refer to our previous video on LSTM. The name of the video will be Attention Visualization along with LSTM. Now, how do you utilize such cell? The paper proposed two ways of utilizing it. First, we'll look at this B side, the right hand side, which is decoder with deep attention fusion, where you can see there is an encoder and there is an encoder and there is a decoder. In between, inter-attention is in play, just the way our additive attention or multiplicative attention has worked before, right? No difference there. But what differs here is that within the encoder and within the decoder, now intra-attention is in play. Following the new modified LSTM cell which the paper have proposed, it is now learning the relationship between the words, whereas within the decoder and encoder, it is the relation between the source sentence and the target sentence for translation purpose. Okay. The A portion, it is another variant of the same LSTM cell being used, only it is the last hidden state using which the inter-attention has been created instead of the, and that's why it is calling as a shallow attention. Here in this case it is more similar, every word is getting attended. When it is not a machine translation, then only the encoder possibly could be used for sentiment analysis or question answering and stuff like that. In the literature, the self-attention will be presented in this manner. You will see this kind of picture in where you can see, for example, it's a sentiment analysis case. So therefore, if fantastic is the word, you can see it has given more emphasis on tough or but. So it is trying to understand the relationship between fantastic and tough and but. Okay. Similarly, you can see there is good. So it is trying to understand whether it is very good or not good, and so on and so forth. So this is how the relationship between words are learned. This is another picture from the same paper. Well, this is another paper. In this paper also in 2016, we see that self-attention was used. They called it as inner attention. Okay. The paper name was Learning Natural Language Inference Using Bidirectional LSTM Model and Inner Attention by Young Liu. The purpose out there is again natural language inference, which we had learned. What does it mean? Given a premise, which is immersed pleasant conversation photograph, and you have given a hypothesis which is involved heated discussion canon, whether the hypothesis will be contradicting, entailment or neutral. What kind of hypothesis you will give? Okay, tag it. So they have used intra-attention or inner attention, self-attention, whatever you say, by using a max pooling. Then that created a weighted sentence representation. Then similarly for the hypothesis also, the weighted sentence representation has been created. Now these two sentences has been compared by 2-3 different methods. One of the method is multiplication, that dot product sort of similarity assessment. Another was additive in nature, but it's difference, and there is position wise another method. So there are a couple of methods they have used to compare the hypothesis, how does it relate to the premise, whether it is contradicting, whether it is entailment or it is neutral in nature. But the point to be noted here that this was possible because they could learn the relationship between the words using self-attention. This is another paper you can go through. How this score has been calculated, there is a little formula. They used the output y and then the average attention, which is this mean pooling, passing them through to give you a M score, and then the score was used to weight all the words to give a sentence representation. The R attention is basically weighted representation of this word. That's what is the formula out here. This is the third paper before the transformer research was published. But this was something interesting to note. This is coming from IBM Watson team. Okay, published in ICLR. Okay, now this paper, the purpose was to create sentence embedding. We learned what is word embedding. It's a vector representation of the word. Similarly, this is a sentence representation in the form of a 2D matrix where each of these row represent a different sentence embedding. How that was done? You can see the architecture here. Each word was going through the LSTM layer, giving you a hidden representation. Then that hidden representation was passing through the neural network and activation to give you this score, AI1, AI2, and all those. So AI1 is a attention score for WE with respect to all other words, right? And then A2 is the attention score for had, this word had, with respect to all other words. Like that, for each of the words there is a attention score obtained. Then all of them were summed up, weighted average, just the way we apply the weight for all this word, creating M1, M2, M3, and all of this representation. So when it is word 1, for the entire sentence, M1 represent the part of where it was focused, right? And creating that 2D matrix. As the words are coming in the sentence, different part of the sentences are getting more attention. Okay, that's all about self-attention discussion, and going forward we will see that in the advanced model like transformer, self-attention plays a very important role. See you in the next video.